Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Donlin, and it's time to get in that lotus position because today we're talking about the origins of Buddhism. It'll be about as exciting as doing meditation can get, so I'm gonna do my best, and let's do this thing, people. Okay, for starters, I'm gonna have you all copy down our overarching question. We will revisit this question at the end of the video, so definitely a good idea to star a few things, to highlight a couple of things along the way to help you support your answer at the end. But it's movie night here on the Donlin channel, folks. What'd you TiVo? What you put on the DVR? What's on demand? Turns out we got an origin story, specifically the origin of Siddhartha, who will become Buddha, the origin of Buddhism. Buddhism begins in Kathmandu, which is just north of India in modern-day Nepal. And Siddhartha is actually Prince Siddhartha. He's born into a very wealthy family who, in particular, think that he is destined for greatness. They believe his dharma is going to excel Siddhartha to be a great king. So there's about 3 of these beautiful looking palaces. You can still visit a couple of them today. We think it's maybe one more or all 3 were actually Siddhartha's palaces that he traveled to and lived in throughout his young life. Quite something. It's a pretty beautiful image. So he lives a pretty lavish lifestyle here. His parents definitely spoil him quite a bit because they believe that if Siddhartha is to see the evils of the outside world, that it will change him and change his attitude, ultimately changing his karma, which will manipulate his dharma. He won't become king if he sees all the terribleness outside. So the stories go, they have servants that line the streets with lotus flowers to make sure that Siddhartha is always seeing the best in everything. But it's at this point that Siddhartha in his teenage years is starting to pick up on that that's probably not what life is really like inside this very pampered, all partying lifestyle. There's more to life, he thinks. So he goes on a journey. While visiting the outside world, he doesn't take any servants with him. He just runs away from home, and what he sees shocks him. He sees an old man, a sick man, and a dead man. These things shock him and awe him because he's never seen real suffering before. He's never seen life progress. In a sense, it's like all this has been really kept from him, and now all of a sudden he's seeing it in its one true face without having anybody around him to comfort him. So he cuts his hair, and then he meets a holy man who begins to tell him all about the... Oh no. Sorry guys, I gotta flip the tape. Apologies. We'll get back to the regularly scheduled program in a minute. What the heck is it? Oh, Donlin, you're making it so we have some notes within our notes. All right, people, I'm gonna have you pause real quick and copy down this stuff along the way. In the meantime, I'll flip the tape, do some meditating, and then we'll continue. All right, back to the action. So if it's one thing that the holy person tells Siddhartha, it's something he will never forget. That everything must decay. Yikes! Pretty sad, pretty cynical way to look at the world. But to Siddhartha, he sees this as all things must endure, all things must suffer, and that suffering might be the origin of something very important in life. So what does he do? He keeps journeying, he sits, and he thinks on this. As he's going throughout this journey, he starves himself to try to better understand pain. He will actually pluck out his beard hairs in some sort. Ow! Oh, sorry, I actually did it. That really hurt. And he does this kind of self-torture. Yikes! I hope I didn't mess up my beard. Sorry. He does this all because he's trying to better understand pain and this suffering that he thinks all life is based on. But this doesn't really get him anywhere, so he abandons the idea of just outright living in suffering, sits under a Bodhi tree and says, I'm going to just think until I figure this out, come back to me. So for 5 long weeks, he sits under a Bodhi tree and meditates, all the while tempted by demons, he's tempted by desire, and all these other worldly things to keep him from trying to reach something he has been longing for. That's something he is trying to attain is moksha. However, in Buddhism, it's called nirvana. Whoa, he hits the state. Oh my goodness, the whole video is hitting. We're getting trapped in it. People, it's like Interstellar. We're slipping into the black hole. Just hang on. Oh my God. Whew. Thanks for getting us out of that, Donlin. Okay, well, a couple more things to note because Siddhartha is no longer Siddhartha. He's now become the Buddha. He's attained enlightenment. So quick pause, and then we'll continue. All right, I thought long and hard about that black hole we almost just slipped in. So this is no Kurt Cobain. We're not doing the Kurt Cobain. No Kurt Cobain. So this is pretty significant because unlike Moksha, Siddhartha attained this while he was still alive, and he still is alive. He's still walking around, but he's in a higher state. It's as though he has now bridged his soul with something very cosmic, this eternalness. Okay, the similarities between nirvana and moksha are incredibly close. So I'm going to have you guys pause me one more time. We should know and have a good grip on moksha. We have been talking about Hinduism quite a bit in class. But let's pause real fast and try to see if we can look at the differences here. Nirvana is not the same. Remember, Buddha is still walking around even though he's entered this higher state. He hasn't died and gotten the judgment from the gods. So, two things to highlight. As far as the differences go, you notice compassion came up and moderation. So compassion we're probably pretty familiar with, and yes, you are supposed to act kind with those who you are around, including people who are among different castes and people who are of different religions. So Thanos is going to tell you about what moderation is. Thanos is not going to tell you about moderation. Thank you, Tenzin, our Dalai Lama. Moderation is avoiding extremes. It's about, not like torturing yourself, everything is terrible, I have to live in pain, but also not, I'm going to live in pure bliss, like everything is amazing, I'm awesome, I never have to do anything meaningful my entire life. I've already been there, it's already awesome. Okay, so where do you go? You've attained this higher state, you're now starting to understand it. It's time to go to the holy city of Varanasi and explain how the heck he got there. So, at this specific moment, Buddha preaches to 5 holy men and tells his story of how he attained nirvana, essentially what got him to this higher state of mind. He told them all about the suffering, the woes that he had seen, and how he attained this clarity while meditating. Okay, another quick pause me. These all come back to us in the form of different primary sources. One of them called the Jakata, we can infer based on many different sources. These are things that people believe that the Buddha had said. But, just like Tenzin is reminding you, there's a lot of misquotes out there, so really be careful. But I'm going to have you guys go ahead and pause me and see if you can summarize this quote here in your own words. All right, I meditated yet again. So this is all about enlightenment, guys. When in doubt, choose E. The path to which is called the Eightfold Path, something that we've already started covering a little bit of in class, and we'll get to more as the week goes on. Also known as the Middle Way. But Buddhism, in a sense, and this is all during Siddhartha's life, he preached more than just nirvana. He also preached things like kindness and toleration among people of different walks of life, including different religions. There he is dancing and having a great time, yeah. This is important because before this, Hinduism didn't have a strong relationship with other religions or other cultures for that matter. But Buddhism is going to really change that and embrace a wide variety of people, including people of multiple different castes. So Buddha, on his dying deathbed, people realize they got to write this stuff down. It's one of the reasons why historical biases-wise, we have so many different ones about Buddha, but not really many about the exact things that he said. So we will analyze some more quotes as we get into this more in class. But here's Donlin reminding you that what's left is the questions. So in looking at Buddha's legacy, we're going to try to see how this shakes up India, how this shakes up the course of history for East Asia. So go ahead and pause one more time and let's brainstorm these questions. All right, I promised that was the last one. Okay, final question to answer. We are revisiting that overarching question from the beginning, and this week we're going to wrap things up by connecting Buddhism to Hinduism and starting to see how Buddhism is a branch from Hinduism. So go ahead and pause me one final time. People, I'll see you all in class.